Hello friends, welcome back to the bench. Our patient today is a 2006 Subaru Outback which suffers from misfires, and actually it looks like the board is upside down. This is the second one that I received with the board with the board upside down, and I'm thinking, is there a model where the board goes upside down in the box? Could be, because the box, the case allows you to put the board in both directions, no problem. It's not like the last time when it was forcibly pushed. There's two rails on top and the bottom. So when I return it, I will put it this way, because that's how I think it should go. That's how everyone goes, except two that I've received, and this is one of them. So I'm thinking that the user just took it out to confirm that there's an IC608 in it, and put it back without really remembering which side which direction it goes. That's the theory or hypothesis, but that's not really important. Here's our IC608. So let's perform a 5-minute repair on it. It hasn't been touched, so that's good. There's a little bit of gunk here. Not sure what's up with that. Interesting. The customer did not specify which cylinder it's. Oh no, maybe he did. Let's check it in the ticket. The 6. Okay. And take a look at that. The 6 is this one here. Let me get the better angle. This one here is number 6. So it looks like there was a prior repair attempt by heating up this joint. It didn't help, did it? Yep. So there's few methods that you can read about circling around the internet. One of them is what has been performed here. All right, just retouch the pen. The other method is to put it in the oven, but the procedure actually is to put it in the oven at, I don't remember, around 200 degrees Fahrenheit. So very low temperature, 200 degrees Fahrenheit. How many is that in even? That's less than 100 degrees Celsius, right? 212 is 100 degrees Celsius. So maybe it was 250 degrees Fahrenheit. But basically on relatively low temperature. So it's not like it's a reflow oven method. And you keep it there for, I don't remember, it was something like a minute, 2 minutes, something like that. And it does work for some people. Mainly it just helps for about maybe a week. You're not actually melting the solder, because this is lead-free solder, so 200, even 300, even 400 degrees Fahrenheit will not melt the lead-free solder. So this is not exactly reflowing, it's just, actually when you just heat up the ECM, right, when the ECM is misfiring, and you just put the heat on in the car, and if heat for your feet, that heat eventually makes it through to the ECM, and that 1, 2, maybe 5 degree difference, makes a difference, makes a big difference, because the car stops misfiring. That's how I found the. That's how I confirmed that it's not the. That it's the issue with the ECM, basically, right? Initially, I thought it was the wiring issue. So I replaced the entire wire from the injector to the ECM. Well, I didn't replace the wire, I just put the redundancy wire going even outside the car just to confirm whether the misfire is going to be gone. And imagine my surprise when it made no difference. The car was still misfiring. Then my next attempts were trying to do what the customer or someone did here. Just try to touch the pins around, and again it helped for about a week, maybe even less than that, a few days, and then the car just wouldn't start. The car would die and wouldn't start. Then finally I devised this method that I perform, and I actually stopped counting after the ECM number 20, so at this point I might be around 40, maybe closer to 30, hard to say, but it works every time. There are issues sometimes, but they are not related to the procedure. Like I had this one recently where the ECM made it back to the customer, and the car would start no problem, and it would run for a few minutes, and then it would die, and it would never start again. And even after the second procedure, when I just replaced the chip, it didn't help, and that confirmed that it wasn't the chip's fault. It should have confirmed at that point that it's not the ECM fault, but it seemed like it. So the customer replaced the ECM, and the problem still didn't go away. So that definitely concluded or confirmed that it was not a ECM fault. Exact same codes. And weird, because I've never had this issue. The knock sensor and the camshaft position sensor and O2 sensors were malfunctioning, no reading, right? So I have never had that issue before. But again, it was not an ECM. It was just very unfortunate coincidence. But other than that, no issues. The procedure works. I have tons of customers to vouch for that. Alrighty, since we're on the car subject, let's talk a little about the full self-driving, FSD. This was the goal of Tesla, and they just kind of went all in on that, meaning, you know, if they don't solve FSD, the company is just not going to make it. That was at least what Elon Musk said in one of the interviews. So there must be something to it. And they still haven't solved the FSD. I think at this point we all know why the FSD was not solved, and I think we can all agree that it's not going to happen. And if you think it is going to happen, well, it's not going to happen, but not for the reasons, the technical reasons. Although at the moment, technical reasons are the main reasons, because it just doesn't work, right? And it doesn't work for the same reason, or maybe let me rephrase it. It works 80% of the time, maybe 85, maybe even 90, maybe even 95% of the times it works. Just like typical neural network, right? It's very useful, it's very nice technology, and it can be 80, even 90% effective. But there's always that at least 5% or 10% of errors that will be produced by the neural network. And that's not exactly something that we can live with on the cars, right? Imagine the autopilot on the plane, because the plane can take off and land by itself, can fly by itself. Like literally, you could just program the computer on the runway and just not touch the controls the whole time. The plane will take off, it'll fly where it needs to fly, and it'll land by itself. That's how pilots land when there's no visibility. Have you ever been on the plane when there's no visibility, meaning like the visibility is just like few meters because there's heavy fog, rain and stuff, and the planes still land no problem. But it's not the pilots that land those planes, it's the autopilot. So imagine that autopilot on the plane would work 90% of the time, and just 10 planes out of 100 just fall out of the sky because the autopilot thought that down was up and up was down. But with the planes, that's a lot easier problem because it's heavily controlled area. You have air traffic controllers. You have the devices that locate the planes. So the planes, the computer, onboard computer of each plane is aware of all the planes around it because they have, I don't remember what it's called, but it's kind of like a beacon. You can actually read it using, I don't remember, that was the relatively low frequency, but you can get one of those little devices on eBay. Even the software defined radios, the SDRs, and just hook up the antenna and just hook up the software that will just read those beacons, and you can see real time on the map the position of the planes nearby. Cars don't have that, or at least that wouldn't be too feasible. I mean, they do have some, like DCM. You have the DCM in the car, but that's for the different purposes, not for other cars to know where you are, right? Plus, with the planes, we're talking about vast distances between the planes. With the cars, they're literally bumper to bumper. So the precision is not high enough to actually estimate the distance between two cars to the, literally a few inches, for that to be anyway assistive, right? So the reason it doesn't work for cars is the cars are on the streets. There's plenty of them. There's pedestrians. There's stuff going on the road that you just cannot account for in your training model, right? Your training model can work great in certain areas, in certain conditions. It can even achieve the 100% accuracy. Yeah, but eventually your car is gonna have to make it to the place which is different, or the situation on the road that you encounter is so much different from the training data that the computer just cannot perform. And then you have to take over, right? So what kind of full self-driving is that if you have to take over? Not to mention that even now the full self-driving comes with the warning that the car might not react to traffic at all. Well, okay, then it's just a tiny assistive device that is unreliable, expensive, risky, and is the risk worth the reward? Just so we can, I don't know. What are you gonna do when you're driving and your car is driving itself? What do you do? It's not like you can just really do something. You're still driving. But say that we solve the problem that Tesla wants to solve of full self-driving, and the car is capable of performing anywhere, right? So let's give it as a hypothetical. We solved technicals of full self-driving. Awesome. Now the real reason of full self-driving comes to light. There's an accident. If there's an accident, the insurance company will be involved, because someone's got to pay for those damaged cars, right? And since we're talking about electric cars, if there was an accident, that means there's been a fire that was burning for about 8 hours before your car could be removed, right? Because it's lithium battery. Once that sucker starts burning, it just keeps burning. So the fire department had to be dispatched for 8 hours. That's a lot of money. That alone is a huge bill that someone has to settle. And in this case, it would be insurance company, I imagine, right? But what if the insurance company says that, screw you, I'm not gonna pay for this, because you're the company that made this full self-driving system, they didn't make it well enough, and that was the full self-driving system's fault, not the driver's fault, so we're not covering that. But the company will turn around to their lawyers, and the lawyers will show you the agreement you signed, that of course you haven't read, because who reads that stuff? You just signed it because that is the requirement. You want my product, you have to sign this piece of paper. That itself is like so, in my view, so despicable. Like, you're not actually agreeing to anything when the ability to purchase something or to use something requires you to sign something. Then it doesn't feel like you're making conscious decision of committing to something that you sign. It just, it's a requirement. You gotta sign here to receive that or to buy that, and I don't know. So obviously you haven't read the terms of service and your obligations and stuff. But the lawyers will show you that you're responsible if you have an accident while on FSD, it's your fault, and you have to cover the costs of everything that has been caused by the car. Did you sign it? Yes, I signed it. Okay, then have a nice day. We're not paying. Now, if it's only about the money, that's actually an easy problem, right? Because it's only about the money. But now suppose your car drove into the school's playground and there were a lot of victims. Horrible to even imagine that, but well, that's what engineers do, right? We think of the worst case scenario and what if. Remember that failing to plan is planning to fail. So you always need to have a plan B. Then if the plan B doesn't work, you need to have plan C and D and E, until there's basically nothing left. So for that reason, full self-driving is not gonna happen, because from the legal standpoint it's a very difficult case. So even if we solve the technical problems of the FSD. We're still stuck with the problems that FSD will cause. So once the first person goes to prison for 25 years because full self-driving failed, that will be the end of sales of that particular car. Or maybe all full self-driving cars, and maybe finally someone will say, like, hang on, that technology is cool, but what problem are we actually solving? We're keen on allowing people to read the book while driving, but at the same time we require them to look at the road and be constantly aware and be constantly ready to take over. That kind of, in my view, that kind of contradicts the whole idea of the self-driving. The sewing machines, the first sewing machines, because that was actually a big engineering problem. But first sewing machines were kind of assistive devices. So you still had to do a lot of work yourself, and it's just some of the aspects of stitching and the sewing procedure were improved, right? Like basically just allowing you to not have to operate with the needle. Needle would just go by itself and tie on the other side, but you still had to move the needle with the little crank. You had to move the material yourself as well, and a lot of manual things. So it only improved like this one aspect, that you didn't have to actually hold the needle and work with the needle. So that sped up the process immensely. And then eventually we have the sewing machines that just sew by themselves. They don't even need to be operated. They just receive the instructions from the software. Then someone designed something, you upload it to the machine, and the machine will cut the material, cut the fabric itself, stitch the fabric, just produce the ready product. Amazing stuff. And if that was the goal, we achieved that goal. But if the goal of self-driving, full self-driving, why do you call it even full self-driving? Is it self-driving or is it not self-driving? Does it drive by itself or does it not drive by itself? What's the difference between self-driving and full self-driving? That means that self-driving is not actually self-driving. It's almost self-driving because you need full self-driving. Just like there was this kind of full HD. So is my TV HD or full HD? So if it's HD, that means it's not HD because it's not full HD. It's half HD, I guess. Fraction of HD. So why is it even called HD? Anyways, if the self-driving mode is, the goal is to allow the person to not have to even be in the car, those robo-taxis and all that stuff, then we can't require a user to just be ready to take over at any time, because that's not even an assistive device. That's just a challenge, right? How quickly can I prevent my car from running into a head-on collision with a UPS truck? Yeah, very challenging, but why would I want to do that to myself? In that case, I prefer to just drive my car, right? So, like with everything, the problems are not only the surface layer, not only at the surface layer. And this particular problem that the engineers are trying to solve, and you know, I'm an engineer myself and I have the same approach. I don't question why, I just try to figure out how, right? Even if something doesn't make sense, you know, I don't think of it that way. I think of it as a technical problem. Something needs to happen. I don't care why, I don't care what the business model is or whatever. I just need to make it happen. And I love that, because that's a nice challenge. I love challenges like that. But I don't question why, right? So the engineers working on the full self-driving are also not questioning why and does it even make sense or anything. No, it's a problem that we need to solve. And well, that's the way it works, at least in my profession. So they're trying to solve it without asking the question why, but whoever pays for it, or whoever will pay for it, and actually there's already people paying for it, because it's technically called full self-driving, but it doesn't actually perform well. And United States is a pretty lenient country when it comes to innovations like that. So it works in the US, but there's no way it's gonna be allowed in Europe. Mainly, not only because of the laws, or maybe mainly because of the laws, because that's what's directly gonna prevent you from doing, you know, from calling your full self-driving mode, or mislabeling it, basically, right? But also the roads and everything, like the rules on the roads, and you know, a lot of stuff is just plainly different. It's a lot easier to drive in the United States, and I say that from my own experience. I have driven in Poland, I don't know, maybe a little below 100,000 kilometers. Maybe a little below 100,000, maybe a little above. I used to drive a lot back in the day. And I was back in the day, meaning before the European Union rebuilt like all the highways and everything in Poland. Now it's a different country than the one I drove a lot in. It is way different, and it is, you know, it's even challenging for a human to be able to drive. Especially think of New York City. You don't have to go far to find out how different it is to drive in New York City, in the actual city, and as opposed to as opposed to some small towns or rural areas. The same with Atlanta, and actually Atlanta is way different than New York. I've never driven in New York City, but I've been there, and you know, as a pedestrian, I could observe what the situation on the roads is. Plus, Louis Rossmann used to do those bike rides and rents. I watched every single one, especially when in few of these he had a 360 camera, so you could, you know, on the video you could actually choose where you want to look. That's amazing. I thought that technology would really take off, and like, you know, because it's awesome. I loved it. I loved the experience where, you know, I choose where the camera is pointing, right? I choose what I look at. The camera operator has nothing to do with that. other than the physical position of the camera. But where it's pointing, I choose that as a viewer. That is amazing to me. I thought that technology would take off like crazy. Everybody would be doing that, but I don't know. It feels like it died. Like nobody's talking about it. I don't see anyone using it, at least not in my group. Anyways, you can see how different areas are, and now the problem of neural networks is training them. Basically, that is the main challenge. How do you train them? So now you can train them on the big city like New York, and then the car won't be able to perform in Atlanta because it was trained on New York. So suppose we have different networks that the car switches over to depending on the area. That could maybe work. This is close to the concept of convoluted networks, right? Come on, melt, baby, melt. We are shifted a bit. We are shifted a little bit, but let's see under the big scope how much. Because a little bit of shift is fine. So now the notion was that I've heard was that this was actually a huge misconception back in the day. I don't think people make that mistake much anymore, because more of the neural network is now being understood. Is that there was this awesome system that clears. Oh, this is way too much shifted. Oops. Let's use this scope. There was this system that removes the background noise from when you record it, right? And the presentations were awesome, like person holding a vacuum next to them and speaking, and you can hear them clearly, and the vacuum, you can't hear the vacuum, so you don't even know it's on. But yeah, the vacuum was on, and the algorithm, the neural network, is capable of sanitizing your voice from the the sounds, the noise, right? Just extracting your voice from the noise. And that was awesome, and still is. But the reviewer of that software said that it's machine learning, right? Because no one called it AI back then. It's machine learning, so the more you use it, the better it is, because it keeps learning. False. Of course false. And I think now everybody understands that the neural network can be in production mode or training mode. If you switch the network to training mode, it self-adjusts, right? The weights and biases are starting to change positions, change configurations. And that is something that every data engineer that works with neural networks will tell you, that especially when you train it on pictures, right? And you want to detect I'll say detect equipment, right? You want to detect a car on the parking lot. So you train it with all the cars that are in the neighborhood. The network is trained, it works great, everything's awesome. And then the ticket comes in that the network made a mistake because now a smart car came in. It's way different than all the other big cars and trucks that the network was trained on. So now the network doesn't see that car. So what do? You take a few pictures of that car, you put it in the training data, you retrain the network, right? With an expectation that this missing car now, this missing piece will now be included. But what happens instead is that now the network doesn't see the big cars, only sees the small cars, or it sees the big cars, small cars, but now it identifies bikes as cars as well, or the booth, the booth is now identified as a small car, or a box left by the UPS guy is now identified as a car. That kind of stuff. Anyone working with neural networks understands that, that it's kind of like a trial and error situation. And that's how you work with neural networks. Okay, you want to see under the big scope. This is what we have. It's perfectly aligned. And now some points might look misaligned. That is normal because we use stereoscope. And a stereoscope looks at the angle from two directions. So you're seeing it from one direction at the angle, unlike the other scope. So, but this is perfect alignment. This is better than I usually do. It could be even more misaligned than this, and it would still be fine. Okay. So these are the problems of working with neural networks. And there's no way around it, no way to solve it. We are the neural network at some point, especially convoluted well, maybe let me rephrase that. Either configuration of the neural networks, you are unable to just kind of understand how the network came up with the solution and just kind of debug the network itself. And yes, on the very simple networks, it is possible. You can actually adjust the network yourself, but in very simple cases. In regular cases, this is just not possible. You can't debug the network. You don't really know why network produced this result and not that one. So what do? You work on multiple networks, playing with the training data, cleaning the training data, and that's actually every data engineer will tell you that or machine learning person will tell you that 80% of this job is just cleaning the data, prepping the data, sanitizing the data, and the training itself, or that's less than 20% of your actual work. The majority of your work will be working with data, because that's what is required for the network to be properly trained. That's what decides whether the network works or not. So in reality, you work on multiple networks in parallel, modifying the data and just seeing what comes out on the other side. And eventually, you come up with a network that has the highest efficiency, highest accuracy, right? And you don't know exactly why, and it's, again, if that network has a tiny issue and you just want to include another picture or another condition to just, I want this network to work the way it works now, plus one thing, right? You can achieve it with convolution layers. Just, kind of prep the data, or, just decision tree, that kind of stuff. Just kind of pick the right network based on what you found. But there's no way to just give the network another piece of data, retrain it, and that extra piece of data will be included, because the whole network changed the configuration. And that is a very frustrating, very undeterministic process. Very frustrating. That's why I don't work with machine learning, because it's only fun when I do it for myself and I just play with it because I want to. And as soon as I get bored, I get to leave and work on something else. The people that do that professionally don't have that option. They have to get it done. They have to make it work. So you can imagine how frustrating that process is, especially when you have the business making wild claims about how your network works, and that's not true, right? This full self-driving doesn't work, but you're the engineer and your boss already sold full self-driving to people, and now you're kind of responsible, meaning, now it's your failure, even though you've just been set up to fail. That's a horrible spot to be in, so let's just appreciate the engineers at Tesla working on this problem. And probably, I don't think meetings with Musk are pleasant meetings, based on everything I know about the guy, based on his interviews and mainly results. That's all I care about, because I'm an engineer myself. All I care about are results. Not all I care about are results, but results are very important. So in case of Musk, I can only judge him by the results that he has, and he has no results. It's embarrassing. It's absolutely embarrassing after all this time. Have this little to show for. And I like how he got humbled on his last Starship update, because he's used to being applauded for stuttering on the stage and basically saying basically not saying even much, just just say something and there's an applause because Elon said something. On the last update there was actually no applause, and I was wondering why. One theory is that all of that were Musk employees. All of those people present there were SpaceX employees. And maybe it was Saturday. I actually don't know which day of the week it was, but maybe it was Saturday, maybe it was after hours, maybe, I don't know. So they really didn't want to be there. They didn't go there because they wanted to. They went there because they had to. Elon said we're going, and we're going. So they were not very enthusiastic, so that's one explanation. And that's mainly based on the fact that Musk said, well, you did that it's thanks to you, it's great work, you did that. But I'm thinking that perhaps he said that because it's kind of like a comedian on a stage and none of your stuff is landing, right? No reaction from the crowd. Then you just kind of try to reach into this, like connect with the audience, and maybe that's what he was trying to do, like kind of give the audience a compliment to just kind of, you know, make this make this weirdness go away. Like, come on, I'm your guy, I'm your dude, I love you, please clap. But we don't know. We don't know. The bottom line is we don't know. But it is a possibility. That's what he tried to do. Here we have a little bridge. No big deal. And there's gotta be some better soldering here. Yeah, this solder is not listening to me today. The last one went well because first try, right? First soldering and no touch-ups, and it worked. And this one needs touch-ups. Oh, actually I don't need the solder because there's too much solder here. There, but for here, a bit too much solder. That's more like it. So Elon got humbled finally, and I'm thinking people are finally seeing that, you know, the guy keeps promising stuff and it's exciting. I agree, and I wanted all that to happen, and I was a Musk supporter myself before before he was exposed to me as a crook. But yeah, it's exciting, so no wonder we all fell for it. But at some point, say after almost a decade, or actually even more than a decade, when did he start promising stuff? I think it started with Hyperloop, was it? Or was there something else? Yeah. Yeah, the vacuum tube with air hockey table in it. I don't know how you combine those two, but I'm dying to see. Oh, you can't do that? It turns out to be impossible. It turns out to be impractical. Yes. If only someone could have seen that. But no, Elon's white paper. Elon's white paper. Let's all bow to the white paper. And why would you even defend the guy? Okay, defend the guy once he has some results, right? Give him a chance, I say. All right, don't criticize the guy. If it's his first idea, let's see if he can get that done, right? Maybe he can. But if it's failure after failure after failure, and then you see the signs of deception, like those solar roofs stuff, that was despicable. He stood there, he showed the thing that he knew didn't work, he knew didn't even exist, but yet had this audacity to tell you that, yeah, give me money because all these houses around you, there are solar houses. Have you noticed? Did you notice? No, I didn't notice. Because they're not. They were not solar houses. And he does that using your money, using my money. Say what you want about Bezos and Amazon and how despicable that business is and how they exploit their workers and how hard the work is and all that. Yeah, say all that, I agree. I absolutely agree. But at least Bezos uses his money to send rockets to space. He doesn't turn around and ask you for money. Spending other people's money is different than spending your own money. That's why he can just brush it off, all the criticism and stuff. And actually, the first time there was, remember this event with Dave Chappelle, Musk got on stage and he was booed off the stage. Yeah, that was the first time I thought, like, yeah, people are actually waking up to his nonsense. Finally. It didn't last too long, because he went back to his crap, and the fans of Elon kept defending and explaining and stuff, and at some point I would just think, like, why am I doing this? Why am I defending this guy? What has he ever done to me? For me? The answer is nothing, ever. Because that's not his priority. And the lies and deception prove that. He's got no problem lying to your face just to make money. Because he's a CEO, yes? That's what CEOs do. Well, if your motive is to save the company so you can save people's jobs and, then yeah, I could maybe stand behind that. Yeah, you had to bend the truth a bit to get the funding to save the company, to save people's job. Again, if that is your only motivation, then I could stand behind that. It still doesn't give you the permission to lie to, especially lie to investors. That's a big no-no. But still doesn't give you the permission to lie to anyone. But at least I could stand behind that. You did what you had to do. You had to stand there and lie to save the company. And you saved the company, everybody's happy, the company's all good now, nobody found out, something like that. I could at least understand that, because the motives were pure. But if you're standing there and selling the product that doesn't exist, that hasn't even been designed yet, and it doesn't look like it's even feasible to come up with a product like that, then what is your motivation? And the way he treats his workers, I doubt the well-being of his employees is anywhere on his priority list. I doubt it even appears on any list. He strikes me as a person that just treats employees as subhumans, that kind of thing. Like, I can replace you anytime. Well, you say something to me that I don't like, you're gone, and I'm gonna replace you, and I'm also gonna tarnish your reputation if I can. I'm not gonna give you a good review or whatever the reference is for your next job or anything. No. And yeah, and no 2-week notice either. No bonus payment, no nothing. And yeah, recently, when was it? It was just a few days ago. He laid off, how many was it? A few thousand people. To cut to and don't get me wrong, because companies lay off people, and corporations especially, they have their certain rules that they follow, certain procedures, and usually it looks like, you try to get to work the next day, and your card doesn't work, your badge doesn't open the door, you can't log into your email, you can't SSH to servers, your AWS account no longer works, the Slack doesn't connect. Then, that's how it works. Sorry, as I always say, if you don't like, if you have a problem with that, work for small companies, small businesses. You always have that option. Just don't go to corporations, because that's the reality. And there's a certain trade-off. Right, in the small business, you don't have the growth potential as you do, and learning potential as you do in big corporations. But so I don't have a problem with that, because a lot of people do have problem with that being done this way. That people didn't even know they were getting fired. Well, yeah, I don't have a problem with that, because basically that's how it works in corporations. But what I do have a problem with is that Musk is trying to get a few $billion bonus from the company that haven't even made that money, doesn't have that money. So he didn't get the bonus, the company's not doing well, so what do? First thing we do, we just get rid of the dead weight. Our employees, people who built this company, people who invented the product, people who built the product, people who maintain this product every day. He did that in Twitter. He did that in Tesla. That's the CEO that you praise. Well, it's not the CEO I praise. Recently there, I don't remember where I heard that, but the former CEO of Amazon, he was kind of talking about being a CEO and where your obligation lies, not to your employees, but to your investors, to the stakeholders. That's true, unfortunately. But you're either a man of character or you're not. If you're not, you shouldn't be a CEO. As a CEO, you have to see that difference. You have to appreciate how the company runs, who runs the company. You don't run the company. The people that work for you run the company. If it wasn't for them, the company wouldn't exist. And I already talked about it, but if you ever find yourself in the position where you just find it difficult to hire people, it's even worse than not finding investors. Because good loyal people will, even in some cases, I'm not saying this is anything that I that I would advertise or do myself, but good people that believe in your mission and you treat them well, and they will work for you even with even for free. Meaning, I've seen that before. I've never participated in it, but I've seen that before when the company had the kind of a deadline, like in 3 months we gotta go to market, right? But if we don't keep the 3-month deadline, we're going out of business and we can close right now. But we don't have money to pay the employees, right? So either you stay with us for 3 months and you work pretty much for free, then we go to market. If that works, then you get back paid, right? And a lot of people went for it. They went to market and they got paid. They got some bonuses too, and you know. But if you didn't have these people, then you would have been bankrupt, right? You would never go to market because no one will build that product for you. So people are the most important aspect of your company. And if you find yourself ever in the situation where you can't hire people, that's a really bad position to be in, and you're not going to be successful even if you have tons of money from the investors. Because if you think that money can buy everything, no, there are limitations to that. There are limitations. Money can buy a lot, but not everything. And it will not save you from because you remember that when Elon effectively killed Twitter on stage, right? Told the investors or the advertisers where they could go. He was hoping that that my minions will boycott Disney, stop watching Disney Plus, and that'll be that. And maybe some people did that. But remember that they are not obligated to help you in any way. They still want their Disney Plus, they still want their Disney products or movies or whatever. So you're asking them to do a lot for you, right? To just kind of not use these products because someone was mean to Elon. They didn't buy advertisement at the X, so now I'm not gonna buy Disney. You know, how many of such people do you have left? Not many, and not very many. I would say very few at this point, and that pool is getting smaller and smaller because you don't give anything to those people. You're selfish. You just keep taking instead of giving anything from yourself. And whenever anyone calls you out on it, you just go into blind rage, pretty much. I would not work for Elon. I would not work for Elon, even for huge money. And I have many reasons for that. But I think that will do for today. All right, our ECM is ready to be shipped. Thank you very much for your business. The name I forgot. And thank you, fellas, for watching and listening to my today's rant. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.